Welcome back. It's another brand new hot off the press episode of Hair Mafia.
That's right.
I know we're the most entertaining, so please, if you're listening to this on your way to work, happy Monday.
Yes.
Have a great week, but also don't be distracted. No texting and driving. Oprah said so. Anyway,
Oprah said that?
I don't know. It sounded like something she would say.
I thought just the highway patrol or something said that.
I don't know. I love the signs that say, turn around, don't drown, when it's like flooding.
I'm not even... Well,
Too
yeah,
random?
because they just say it'll in 2 inches of water, your whole car
literally
can float
do
away,
it.
and I'm like, do they really? I just
drown,
drive through
You can drown
it.
in 2 inches of water. That's
Yeah.
okay. I don't know why. Okay, so somebody told me a riddle, and I failed it hardcore, but I also won. So are you ready for it?
I guess.
What's a letter in the alphabet that you can also drink?
Huh? Tea?
I said P.
Oh my God. Okay, R. Kelly. No,
No, but literally I just went because I didn't know. And I went through the alphabet, and the way this guy looked when I said, because I mean, I said P, and he goes, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I was like, I don't drink. You said
you're like,
can.
you could ingest it.
So anyways, quiz your friends.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 2 letters, not just one.
So you were just going through and P came before T. And so you were like,
Look,
oh, well, then it's that.
being part of the queer community, there's some weird fetishes. If you're in Oklahoma, go to the district on a good night, and a lot of people like to leave their doors and windows open. And there's also a swingers club here. And I didn't know there was a nudist colony. This is really off.
In the nudist colony?
And
I know the
nudist
swingers club. Not that I'm a swinger. Whenever I bartended, there were a lot of like swinger couples, and they would ask me to go. I'm like, no. They're like, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And I'm like, okay, really no. Because if you're going to say that to me.
somebody's going to come up and fondle me.
Yeah. Hey, you don't have to do anything you don't want. That just sounds weird. I never went, but.
One more quick story before we get into this. So how I found out that there was a kind of a big swinger community here, which to each their own. I love these stories. It's not for me. Maybe later. I don't know. Life is looking real bleak. So I had this client. He was like 6 or 7 or whatever. And I was like, oh, hey, what did you do? We're just like playing little games while we're doing like counseling. And he was like, I just get so sad. And I was like, what's wrong? And he goes, my mommy just always like leaves me on the weekend. And I was like, oh. He was like, yeah, she thinks I don't know, but she goes out to hang out with her friends, and they have like swinger parties.
Oh.
I guess he heard her talking on the phone about it. And I was like, oh, like the playground swing? And he was like, I guess. And I was like, also pineapples. I used to wear a pineapple pendant on my collar, and it was upside down once. Changed my life forever.
I'm hearing things that if you leave a pineapple outside of your door, that means something.
Especially on cruises.
Yeah. There has to be, I mean, I'm not just saying like any old random place or time.
No, I mean like, but these are like key places. Like if you don't have a mailbox on your like outside, like where you can hang one, you put on your porch. So I think like upright is like your swinger friendly. Upside down is you're actively looking for a third. Yeah.
So what's the difference? Like swinger friendly is what? Or you're active like hey,
we know
like,
each other. Like I see you. Like
I don't judge.
We can talk about it.
Okay. And then upside down is like
also
I'm lonely.
Your grocery store. I don't know. Three's Company. It's like 2 ain't enough, but. Upside down in your grocery cart, like so people will just like have a pineapple and they're just like going about their business.
So what if you have like an upside down can of pineapples?
You probably like toys. One time somebody had to get their teeth replaced because they had like an aluminum dildo and they put it in their mouth. Turned it on. Anyways, today's episode.
Nothing surprises me.
Yeah.
That's all good.
We are going to talk about
pricing.
This is such a huge question in our industry.
It really is. And even I question my own prices sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
when should I raise them? Is this enough? Did I raise them too much? And that always seems to be the question at classes that we go to, or even in general. Even new stylists starting with us, they're like, what are your prices? Well, clearly I don't feel like my prices should be what yours are going to be.
Right. And sometimes that's uncomfortable to disclose because it's like, well, then I have to go into like my education and the years in the industry and like what I've developed to be like my signature style.
Yeah. And it always just is a huge thing. And then a lot of stylists are like, well, I just like live in a small town and I don't feel like that I can charge that much. Honestly, I feel like in really small towns, you could charge whatever you feel like because you're really the only one there.
Yes, because I feel like there's not, like you said, you're the only one there. There's not a huge selection, but also too, I'm just like, you're offering a service and you're in demand. So it's just kind of like.
Yeah. We have a lot of like call-ins that will call the salon or even just like DM me, and I'm sure you get them. And they're just straight up like, what are your prices? Because I'm searching around and I'm comparing, like getting quotes basically.
Yeah.
Like that's just like what people do now, or at least in my experience.
Yeah. We had somebody the other day do that to Caitlin. She was like, I'll let you know I'm going to get another consultation. I'm like, okay, good for you. But also, whoa.
Yeah. And it's, and I guess it's just like a normal everyday thing to do now whenever you're searching for a new stylist. And I get people do have budgets.
And I think it's important to tastefully discuss someone's budget. It's just kind of like, what are you looking for and or I think it starts with the picture and just say, okay, what do you want to achieve? And be upfront with like, you do need to know like kind of your pricing breakdown.
Right. Or if you're an all-inclusive price person.
A la carte.
I'm like, if you want this exact picture or really damn close, it's going to be about this much.
Right.
But if they're like, okay, well then for extensions example, we could always, you don't have to get 2 full rows of the 22-inch mermaid hair.
Right. I know what you want.
Yeah, I know what you want. But if your pocketbook doesn't, if you just don't want to or can't spend that much money, maybe you should just try 1 row of 18-inch extensions, or even with the color, we can still give you a nice look and maybe not tip out all of your ends and they won't be as bright. Or there's different ways that you can work around people's budgets.
And I think too, when you start to get the hang of your craft, whatever it is, but specifically hair, one of the biggest things I learned, and it clicks more and more every day, is like, it's not about sometimes can you do it, can you create the illusion that you did it?
Yeah.
Like I can't balayage out to save my life, but I can get you a look that would mimic it.
Yeah.
And so that was like a big tip that I heard from one of my really good friends. And they were just like for instance, somebody wants all these layers. And I'm like, you don't have the hair for that. I have to create the illusion that I gave you all these layers without chopping you like thin and bald.
Yeah.
When it comes to pricing, one thing I learned in hair school, not from my hair school, but I was like consuming like all this knowledge, is one of the instructors on one of the instructional videos that I was watching that I had found, whatever state, they said, you need to be decently paced at what you do. And you basically want to make $1 a minute. So not that even if you don't do hourly pricing, if someone takes you 2 hours to do like a full highlight, you should be like at $120 because it took you 2 hours or whatever that may be. Now you can take into account like product and this and that, but I said, if you're really confused, that's a good way for me to look at it.
Yeah.
And it really just like helped me, because then I started looking at everybody else's pricing and I was like, that does kind of check out. At the time I was looking.
I used to charge hourly for extension move-ups. I charged $75 an hour for iTips because it was time consuming. I actually, and then I went up to $100 an hour, and this was 8-9 years ago.
You were ahead of the curve, because there was like this big wave last year of like hourly pricing or
Yeah,
hourly charging.
But I quit doing that because I had these people this one girl
Setting the timer.
she would set her timer on her iPhone, and I'm like, okay, that's like a bit ridiculous.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
you're
saying?
just standing there, so that doesn't count.
Right.
It's like, your process.
But what I would do is I would kind of do by the half hour. So if it took me an hour and a half, I would charge them an hour and a half. But if it took me an hour and 40 minutes, guess what? You're getting charged 2 hours.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because it went over.
Right. And then there were kind of arguments about that. And then
Was there ever like a crazy argument?
no, but people just started being like, okay, well, I took these out. Like I took out all my iTips so that you could just like put them back in like an hour. And I'm like, no, because now like there's levels of iTips. Like you start, I mean, they're like K-tips, but
the placement
is now gone.
So it actually takes me longer because you messed with it.
Right. And so now I just do the flat fee or whatever. It seems to work easier. I would like to do hourly pricing, but hourly pricing I think is not for a lot of clients in our, like in our location, in our geographical area. I don't think that it is. And you're not allowed to accept tips that way because it's literally just, I charge $150 an hour. If your appointment's 3 hours, we're going to get what we get in 3 hours. If you book for 2 hours, you're going to get this. If you book for 1 hour, you're probably going to get a gloss and a haircut. Like more time you want to spend here, the more you're going to get. And that's a good way of saying it, but people should know that anyways, but I don't think people do know that. Like good work takes time.
Yes.
Even if you don't do hourly, even if you just have your prices set, I think a lot of people are like, okay, I'm in a hurry and I don't have time to do this and I just want to do that. And then they're like not really truly happy with their hair. It's like your color takes 3 hours. If you want it to look really good, that's what it takes.
Well, I think that's one thing that I'm trying to subliminally like reinforce with my clients or, like over communicate, but not like in one sitting. It's just like, I want to say like, thank you for spending so much time with me. Good hair kind of takes time, or these techniques take time, or, just like, oh, hey, like, are you ready to be here with me for like 3 hours? So that it's kind of like ingrained in them. Like, I'm going to be here a while because that's what the trending looks like. That's just the hair of our time right now. I'm like, I kind of hope that we don't live in a time again where we don't like blur, highlights and, shadow root. And I'm like, oh, that just be too bold for me. I might quit.
Yeah. Well, Caitlin's client earlier had some chunky highlights. She didn't do them. And I was like, yikes.
I had a client, she was like, don't smudge me. Don't do it. Just straight up slice me, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, it didn't look bad, but I'm like, that ain't the hair I want to do.
That can actually look really cute.
It can. But it just
if they already have pretty light hair and they just want it really bright and bold, it does look cute.
Keyword: if you have light hair, hair's black.
Yeah,
she wants to be
then
as
that
blonde
won't look
as
good.
Possible.
No.
But anyways,
so I feel like what I've learned, I feel like raising prices. That's always like scary thing to do. People are like, when do I raise them? When do I not raise them? There never is a great time to raise them, but I'm going to go over the topics of when I think is the wrong time to raise them.
Okay. Yes. Maybe then I can take over the sweet spot, because being a newer stylist, like you trying to figure out all that stuff. And I've heard consistently across the board that October is the like September, October, because you want to like catch people before they get into like holiday mode and they're like becoming prepared to spend money.
Right.
But then a lot of people say tax season.
I feel both of those are really good. I was going to say, I feel like the wrong time to raise prices is January 1st.
I think so too, because everybody's broke.
Totally.
Holidays.
And I think that they're taking advantage of, just because we get through our major holiday season, I feel like January is still super busy for me. I don't start slowing back down until like after Valentine's Day, because people are like, new year, new me, or they got Christmas money, or it's whatever. But also, like you said, people have spent a lot of money on Christmas and
resolutions. I think even though it's the most wonderful time of the year, almost universally, it's funny because the flip side of that is a lot of people go into debt, like to create this happiness, and then they're feeling the aftermath. They're like, my family got all these smiles, but now I have all this pressure, and then I just want to get my hair done, and it's like you just increased by 25%.
Take out a credit card.
We were talking about that earlier, and I didn't know that was a real thing.
I would never suggest that. That's an inside joke. We may bring that up at another time.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so I usually do mine around the summer or around back to school.
Yeah. I think that's a
And then I
soft-
kind of don't even announce it. I know that that seems awkward, but people are like, guys, I'll be raising my prices this time. I used to do it that way. And it's kind of like I was already getting the arguments beforehand. Not that everybody's arguing with me. Most people don't care about a price increase if it's just $20, $40, $50.
But you were creating like this pre-resistance.
Exactly. Or like, maybe I could see if maybe I going back to shopping around. Maybe I'm going to shop around and see if someone is, or, you know, and of course I would love them to stay in our salon anyways, but I just tell them the prices have increased and here's your total today.
Yeah. Well, and the thing
Not
too
that
is
I'm trying
like,
to put them on the spot or make them feel awkward. But it's easier also to tell them face to face, one on one. A lot of people don't even read my social media or look at it. I mean, no, they do, but a lot of them don't even have it, you know?
But like they pay attention to your social media in particular when it's like fun or entertaining.
Yeah.
But like you mix it in there. You're just like me, my work,
Yeah.
my pricing. They're just like, I never saw that.
Yeah. Or maybe they did. They're like, I'm just going to go ahead and
It
keep
still
swiping.
counts even if you didn't see it.
So, yeah. And I just think that's just how I do it. Now, the way I do things isn't for everybody. And maybe it is for some. This has been bothering me lately.
Come on with it.
No, about price increase. People are like, due to inflation, I'm raising my prices. Prices increase all the time.
If you're going to increase them, but like I feel like when you justify like, well, this has gone up or I have to pay more for gloves or I did it's
But it's like
you're
gas
not
prices have
confident.
raised. So now my whatevers are raising. And it's like gas prices always raise and then they come back down.
Well,
Right
it's
now,
like-
my car is same to fill up as it was before the gas prices went up. Like,
But again, what does that have to do with your client? Because I'm like, nobody told you to get a diesel car. Nobody told you to drive 45 minutes to work. Like, why are you punishing the client for that? Like,
right, the
Yes.
client's over here like, why me? That and then stylists just being like, guys, I got all of this right here, and it's like, you know, like two little things, and it's like this was $465. This is why my prices are increasing due to inflation, and I'm like, okay, but everybody else is paying these prices also.
yes, like and
Every
that's
other
the thing, too.
stylist, every other person in the grocery store, gas, all these things. So cool. Let me just like blatantly raise my prices now that there's a recession and people are still struggling. I'm just going to raise my prices because now I'm spending a couple $100 more a month in supplies. I'm like,
It almost just feels like my life is like I'm proving that my life is harder. I deserve this like price increase versus like I've improved upon my skills to this point.
yes.
Like just fall back on that. Like if you feel like you should raise your prices, it's because you are confident in your work and you keep building upon like you have this great foundation, but now you're like perfecting it.
Yeah. And I have such a demand. I can't even get people in. I have to raise my prices.
Yeah.
Because you have to automatically understand that some of those people are going to either go to a different stylist in your salon that are less or go somewhere else or whatever. So then the price increase will allow for those people to go somewhere else if they want to do so.
yeah, drop off.
Yeah. And that's just part of it. But it's like, there's some, and we've talked about this before, but there's some stylists that are like, guys, I've been out of hair school a year and I'm going to be raising my prices. And I raise my prices every single year, even though I haven't gone to any classes. Yeah, your experience is getting there. But it's like, okay, so you haven't gone to any classes. You've gotten a little bit better, but also, do you have people like wanting to get in?
Right. And that's a big, so the key component is timing.
Yeah.
But also
yes.
if you are in demand, like kind of booked out 80%.
Yeah.
Or more because they say expect 20% at least to just like be like, I'm not paying that.
It's very true.
And it's not even to be ugly, but it's just like some people just know that they can get a look within the budget that they've always been paying for. And there's nothing wrong with that because there is a stylist out there that will produce the same work as you and they're willing to go look for it.
And that's fine also.
Yeah. But what's tricky is people want to know a specific number. And it's like finding the base price.
Yeah, like what exactly would you charge for this?
Yes.
And I'm like, I just have to see the person.
Right.
Like me, like, I mean, I'm different than if Caitlin walked in and we wanted the same look. it's going to be different, or me and Sydney, or just me and anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, some people with extensions, I don't even really have to do a lot of color, but then sometimes I do.
Well, I've had two people come in this week for color and they booked the right thing. There was nothing wrong with it. And I was like, oh yeah, I anticipate making this much money. They came in to me and I was like, I would literally feel guilty if I charged you for the service that you correctly booked, because their hair didn't need a lot of work. And I think,
and that's true too. And that's hard. That is hard.
Because I'm like, if I did all those things, I would have over blonded you, or just to make it feel like I did work. To charge you.
But see, that's what they're paying for, is your knowledge of knowing, well, just because they got modern blonding, cool, I'm just going to like baby light the whole thing. No. If they really, I mean, mine will sometimes book out the same time frame, but maybe something different. And I'm like, okay, well, as long as the time frame is there, that's good. But that's really also what they're paying for, is you knowing exactly what to do and how to give them that look. Right. Just because someone comes in and says, I want highlights, or I booked for highlights, doesn't mean you just have to highlight the whole head. Yeah. That's why I do appreciate pictures.
Or just kind of to even that out. Not that I was trying to like scam them or whatever, but it's like I do have, goals that I want to meet financially. I said, well, since I'm not taking all this time working actually on your hair, I said, hey, we have time to do like a deep condition. Do you want to do that? Boom. I'm closing that gap on there, because I know to also offer a beneficial service, not an unnecessary service, but a beneficial service. Because a lot of people just do stuff just as an add-on. And I'm like, did they need that? Now they're just crispy.
Yeah. Now they're just crispy. I think your demand is a big part of it. I think people will get frustrated if they just start raising their prices too early.
Yes. Or they people will question it more.
Like,
why are you doing
this? Why? Like, you've raised your prices 3 times in 2 years, but yet you still don't have an assistant. Like, you know what I mean? And then there's people that do raise them like all the time, and then they seem to get away with it, and that's fine too.
I've met a couple stylists that have confused me, and I love them. I mean, I know them, and I was just like baffled that one stylist literally like had raised their prices 3 times in a year. And it was because, and I like started talking to her. She said, well, I was nervous to raise them that high all at once. But I said, you've caused a lot of people to be upset versus just like raising it and saying like, this is what it is. And I was just like, it was just weird. And I'm just like, I think that also too, like, you should be confident in you should be confident and be able to justify why you rose your, is that how you say it? Rose your price?
Rose them.
Yeah.
Raised them.
Yes.
Rose them,
like
whatever.
You raised your price.
Pricing is difficult. I mean, we have a couple of new people starting, and so even my assistant is still like, I heard her prices the other day. I'm like, raise your prices. This is terrible.
No, and what's funny is
I'm like raise your price now. Now, raise your prices right now. Like,
and since she has full support and like she's getting clients, and she gets new clients all the time. But I'm also like, she is so sweet, but she's just like worried about not having a client base. When I'm like, you're attracting clients that you don't like. You're not going to love everybody, but it's like you're getting these requests that you don't enjoy doing. But I'm like, it's the price point.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the thing too. I'm like, maybe that should determine where your pricing is, because that will attract who you get. But also too, I think I heard, for me, one of the worst things ever, it was a client that I did the other day, and her mom was in there, and she was just kind of telling them their whole backstory, and it was just like fun and whatever. And she was like, I'm a loyal client. She kept saying, I'm a loyal client. I will pay my money. And she started telling me like what she paid. And I said, looking at your hair, and if what you tell me is true, you take care of your hair, which really there wasn't a reason to not believe that, knowing her history. I said, you should have never paid that much money. And she was like, but like, I believe in the experience and my stylist or whatever. And she wasn't happy with it. And so it was even funnier, like at checkout, because she, I heard her out, I heard her daughter out, and I did all these things. And I was like, hey, this is what I think you need. Will you just like trust the process? I was like, we're not going to go super left. Actually, I'll probably do less than you expect me to do, and you'll get what you want. And then the mom was just like, oh my God, like I wasn't even done. And most people can't tell in Prague. And she was just like, what? And so then I check her out and I'm like, here's the price. And she goes, oh my God. And it was like this really disgusted look. And I said, is there, like, do we need to talk about it? Like, I know this is your first time. She goes, that's really low. And I said, I think that's reasonable for the area that we're in and what I did. And she was just like, I paid this much money. I said, and you were unhappy. And I tell people when they tell me like, oh, I expect to pay more, I'm like, then put it in the tip.
Yeah. Then
like, I don't want to tell you to pay me more money because then I look flip floppy, but you know.
But that's where it is hard to gauge because, you know, some people, I really do feel like overpay for what they're getting. I'm like, wow, seriously? Mm-hmm. And then some people probably underpay a little bit.
Yeah.
That is hard.
It is hard.
Especially like color. I feel like extensions, you can be pretty like cut and dry or black and white about it. You could be like, it's X amount of dollars per row, but like colors are what takes all the time. And take all the product. Like extensions, they have to buy their own product. You have no overhead outside of that. They're they're paying for your labor, your work.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously like your expertise and your knowledge, but it's like, that's what they're paying for. But like, when it comes to color, all that stuff comes into play. Your foils, your just everything, plus your time.
Well, I think that's another thing to take consideration with your pricing is I'm like, your base price, and then it's like, you know, does your client get like 2 scoops of lightener and then you charge $10 per bowl after that or whatever? Those are things to take in consideration. And that's also very, you know, you can mark that. It's like your client can sit there and be like, I know you're charging me fairly because I did count 6 bowls. You know, or whatever. It's like, I think people just want to feel like it's fair. But if you're having a problem with pricing, everybody's pricing is typically on their social media. Average it out.
Yeah.
Find some people that do work similar to you in your area and just be like, okay, it's around this much. So.
But I think raising your prices, you also have to have a good experience on top of that. We keep talking about that, but I've had people who have lower prices and maybe they don't even do good work or maybe they are just starting out, but you know what? They're like happy to be there. Mm-hmm. Their stylist isn't like late all the time or hungover all the time, or they have a good attitude when they're there, or they're really trying.
Client care.
Yeah, client care. And
I've gotten a lot of retention for just asking people a couple of days later, like, are you still liking your color? And that's scary for me because I'm like, I don't want to hear that they haven't had one, but especially in the luxury of extensions, why not ask them how they're doing before their weft falls out? And they're like, hey, I think there's a spot here. I'm like, come on.
Yeah. No, they do appreciate things like that. So I feel like all of that is relevant in raising your prices, not just like, well, I went to a class, so I'm going to raise my prices by $100 and have a bad attitude.
Yeah.
And show up late and hungover or whatever it is. I mean, you know, all of the other things. I think people will pay the prices.
Mm-hmm. But sometimes the proof isn't always in the price.
What is it in?
The result.
True. Because people were like, back whenever I was like having some beef with some stylists, they were like, cheaper isn't always better. If you want to go to blah, 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 then her prices are less. And I'm like, well, but more expensive isn't always better either.
It's not.
I mean, if you want to raise your prices and have like a high-end service, that's great. But you need to be able to prove it, like you're saying.
Right. So with prices, you have to be confident in if you're able to justify why your price starts where it is and why it's increasing. That's the best way to answer that question.
Yeah.
So, any last words?
I don't think so.
Any more riddles?
I have no riddles.
You don't have any?
I have no riddles.
Oh, let me think of one real quick to take us out. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Tank.
Tank who?
You're welcome. Thank you for listening.
Yay.
Bye. Get you a hat.